It's draft day around the NBA, so we're going through the latest mock drafts from experts around the league, and we'll grade their selections before we bring you into our simulated Heat war room. We'll run a mock draft and debate what to do with Miami's 15th pick. It's a draft day extravaganza, today's episode of Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Heat, your everyday podcast on the Miami Heat. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day, Monday to Friday. I'm Wes Goldberg, editor at allyoucanheat.com, here with David Ramil. Both of us credentialed Heat media members. Both of us will be at the Miami Heat's official NBA draft watch party on Wednesday night. We are very excited to be a part of that. We're going to be recording a live reaction episode to whatever it is that the Miami Heat do in the first round. The Heat will be picking with, or they have the 15th pick. Maybe they trade up, maybe they trade down, maybe they do something, maybe they trade out. Who knows what's going to happen? You and I think it could be a crazy draft night, and we will be at the official watch party to break it all down. So will some Heat dancers. Bernie's supposed to be there. There's giveaways. There's all sorts of things. I heard there's beer, maybe most importantly. So
I need it.
It should be a lot of fun. But before we get to our Heat War Room simulation, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs wind down and the sports stop sporting like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everybody every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Congrats to our Florida Panthers for winning the Stanley Cup. Just a whole lot of good stuff happening. I'm excited. We got the draft tonight, the Stanley Cup in South Florida. Hopefully this is a path to the Heat bringing home a championship sometime soon. But yeah. All right, we'll see.
We'll see. You never know. We'll never know. You know, a lot of people optimistic about this summer. You know, I think we got to get hung up on it, you know, because you start to hear little voices and, you know, it's a loud minority of people that are frustrated with this fan base. Are frustrated from this fan base. And then, of course, it was a poor showing in the playoffs. Not a lot of excitement about the draft because it's not an exciting draft to begin with. There's no name like Victor Wembanyama that draws
about the draft.
Eyes. I am too, but I'm saying I just think that you look at what this team has done over the last couple of years. They're a home run when it comes to the draft. Like they're going to find a player that's going to be a good contributor immediately, and I think that's something to look forward to if you're a Heat fan.
They've, to your point, knocked out the last two drafts. They got Nikola Jovic 2 years ago. They got Jaime Jaquez the year before that. We can go back a couple of years. They did take Precious Achiuwa. Didn't exactly work out, although he only got a year before he got traded for Kyle Lowry. They took him over Tyrese Maxey, which has been panned. I don't think it's as big of a deal as a lot of Heat fans. Like, you can't just be like, oh yeah, the 35 players that were taken after Precious Achiuwa, one of them was probably going to be better. Odds are.
Hindsight is 2020.
Yeah, it's easy to kind of say that. They took Tyler Hero before that, Bam Adebayo before that. So they've been good with these first-round picks. Let's go around some of the different sites, see who they have the Heat taking from some of the latest mocks by the draft experts. So we're going to go through these picks, play our 1-minute scouting report from our in-house experts at Locked On, and then you and I are just going to grade each of these expert selections. So let's start with ESPN. ESPN, in their latest mock draft, have the Heat at number 15 taking Zach Edey, a player that we've talked a lot about. Here's the Locked On expert 1-minute analysis of Zach Edey.
Purdue's Zach Edey was college basketball's most dominant player the last 2 years. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten. Zach Edey is a legitimate 7'4", a sturdy 300 pounds, and he's got a wingspan of 7 feet 11 inches. He averaged 25 points, 12 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game for the Boilermakers this year, and he's the 2-time National Player of the Year. His numbers coming out of college are comparable to Shaq's at LSU, but his game is more like Yao Ming's. If this draft were 20 years ago, this kid would be the number 1 pick. There's no question about it. But today's NBA game is full of shooters of all sizes on the perimeter. The one thing Zach Edey struggles with is shooting on the perimeter. In fact, he made just 1 3-pointer in his entire college career, and that was this year against Indiana, and he banked it in garbage time. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be as curious as anybody to see how he's used to the NBA. But I clearly think there's a place for him if he goes to the right team. For more on Zach Edey and all things Big Ten, Follow and subscribe to Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
So grade the pick. ESPN has them taking Zach Edey. It's one of the few, if any, mock drafts that I've seen around that has the Heat taking Zach Edey. Let's go ahead and give that a grade.
I'm going to give it an A. To be honest with you, I think it's
warmed up on him.
It's a shift on the culture, just the identity of this team, what they're going to have to do. You have to get a big body out there. They've been so undersized for so long. I just think it represents something monumental. And I don't know if we can see the bigger picture right now, but from the selection of Edey, if they wind up taking him, it represents something bigger than what we're privy to at this point in time.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If you take Edey, that is at least at the very least a schematic shift in how the Heat are going to be playing. And maybe they look around the league and they say, you know what, bigs are back. We know that Bam Adebayo can play center. We still have that option, right? But we just want that other option in terms of being able to put two bigs on the floor at once, or putting a 7'4" human on the court to defend the rim, and we want that. Miami's rim protection last year was not very good, right? They gave up almost 60%. Opponents shot almost 60% at the basket against the Heat last year. That's not a great mark. Zach Edey would, at least theoretically, help that. And I think if you're going to put him anywhere, yes, there are defensive limitations, but if you're going to put him on a team, you'd want him to play with somebody like Bam Adebayo, who can sort of cover up for some of those deficiencies. If he gets blown by, Bam's there to clean everything up on the backside. So I'll give it an A too. Obviously, all this stuff depends on who else is on the board, but Zach Edey, I think, is a legitimate option for the Heat at number 15. The Athletic and Yahoo both had the Heat taking Duke's Jared McCain. Here's the Locked On experts on McCain from Duke.
Duke Blue Devils freshman sensation Jared McCain might be the best shooter in this NBA draft. I am Alex Dono from Locked On ACC. While he doesn't have the best length at 6'2", McCain makes up for so much of that with his high basketball IQ, his sharp shooting, and his crafty finishing at the rim. Shot 41.4% from beyond the arc last year, played over 31 minutes per game, averaging 14.3 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal per contest. McCain, by the way, he's got 3 million followers on TikTok, so he's multi-talented, but he's all business when it comes to basketball. That's his number one priority. The ACC All-Rookie and All-ACC Honorable Mention can help an NBA team immediately with his shooting. A common NBA comp for him is Seth Curry. For more on Jared McCain and all things ACC.
All right, so give it up to Alex Dono for throwing out the TikTok numbers there. Miami's own Alex Dono, who does a great job of covering the Hurricanes over at Locked On Hurricanes as well. Jared McCain from The Athletic and Yahoo, grade the pick.
C+.
Yep, that sounds about right to me. I like the idea of having a third guard come off the bench. You could score, space the floor, stuff like that. I just don't. He feels like too in between Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson for me. And with the size issues, I just think that there's not enough adding there for the Heat on the roster that McCain makes a whole lot of sense, considering that there are probably going to still be some other wings on the board. But the thing that The Athletic and Yahoo all said was the guy's just such a high character guy. He's crushing all these pre-draft interviews. Everybody that talks to him says, like, this guy just, like, oozes all the Heat culture-y stuff. And so I guess that's why they're penciling him in there. So I get it. But for the Heats, just in terms of their team needs, maybe not. All right, The Ringer has them taking Tyler Kolek out of Marquette at number 15. A little bit of a reach. Here's the experts on Tyler Kolek.
Tyler Kolek, Marquette, is a bulldog and a winner who rises to the occasion time and again, and someone I want on any team. I'm Isaac Shade from Locked On College Basketball. Tyler Kolek is a 6'3", 195-pound, 23-year-old lefty point guard who was a second-team consensus All-American following up his Big East Player of the Year award the year before. While there's a lot that Kolek does well, what shines the most is his distribution. He led the nation with 7.7 assists per game this season, while, oh, by the way, scoring 15.3 points, grabbing 4.9 rebounds, and knocking down 38.8% of his threes. I am a bit concerned about his ability to defend at the next level in his size and athleticism, but you can't deny what's on tape, and I would trust him and his savvy ability to lead a second unit. Give me Andrew Nembhard and what he just did for the Pacers as a player comp. For more on Tyler Kolek.
So that's Tyler Kolek. Give it a grade.
Let's see. I mean, Nembhard, like he took some time to kind of develop a little bit there, and that was a good situation for him. I'd love the idea, and I know a lot of people have said, "Oh, lefty point guard, he's the next Goran Dragic, etc." But I mean, Goran was bigger, certainly feistier, certainly, I mean, a high level competitor and a better shooter too,
And
much more
faster, more
savvy,
athletic.
faster. Yeah, all of that. So I just, if you're saying a smaller, slower, slightly worse Goran Dragic, it's like, oh, we had Beno Idru, we that was fine. We don't need to go through that experiment again. I don't know. I don't see the fit for Miami.
I like Tyler Kolek fine as a player. I'm giving the pick an F. I hate it. It makes no
Wow.
sense for it just doesn't make sense. These small players, even at 15, I know it's a middle of the first round pick, but if you're
No, yeah,
small, so many things have to work out for you to be good in the NBA. It's really hard. Like, you're already behind the 8 ball, and if he ends up being TJ McConnell, that's fine. I just don't know how much that's moved. I don't know that moves the needle for this Heat
Right.
team. Having
Like,
somebody
the
to run some
analysis
pick
there-
and roll off the bench and stuff, like, it's nice. I don't know that that's what the Heat need, and especially as Eric Spoelstra tries to push the team further to sort of more of an egalitarian, we all kind of run the offense together. The need for a traditional point guard, the way like Kolek, seems like it doesn't really make sense as a fit. That, by the way, is from Kevin O'Connor's Ringer mock draft from like a week ago. He might have a new one out by the time people are hearing this, and I'd be interested to see if he changes that pick. Even though Kolek is getting some first-round buzz, I think 15 might be a little too high. CBS has the Heat taking Kyle Filipowski.
Duke big man Kyle Filipowski benefited from playing a second season with the Blue Devils, but now he's ready to begin his NBA career. I am Alex Dono from Locked On ACC. Filipowski is a proven commodity as a 7-footer who can flex his game out to the perimeter. He enjoyed an All-American season in 2024 as a sophomore, started all 72 games over his 2 years with Duke. Filipowski improved his overall shooting percentages and three-point percentages in his second year. In 2024, he shot 34.8% from three, 50.5% overall, and he hauled in over 8 rebounds per game. Kyle Filipowski can help an NBA team immediately. The question is, will he develop into a star or just a steady contributor?
Great.
F-.
Kyle Filipowski.
F-.
F minus.
F-. Yeah. What's lower than that? Like, I mean, we were out on him from day one of our blue notebook, and I haven't warmed up to the idea. I don't think he's a first round pick. Like, I mean,
Oh, wow.
he's 7 feet tall. Like, I mean, that's fine, but and he's played for a winning program, but I don't think he was the one responsible for that winning. So I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I just don't see it as a good fit for Miami at all.
So he's like you said, 7 feet. He's 6'11" with about the same wingspan. So defensively, he's not going to be an awesome presence, but he defends the way like Duke guys defend. A little dirty, some cheap shots here and there. He's a Dookie, man. Like, that's what he does, which I don't mind. That has a place in the Miami Heat kind of sphere, right? That has a place there. But I was going to give this like a B minus.
Really?
He's Kelly Olynyk with a little bit maybe better defensive upside, perhaps. I like the ball handling. I like the fact that he could shoot it from the perimeter. It would be really not exciting for a pick, but at least I know, okay, you bring him in, he could play some bench minutes for you in the front court. They need some front court depth. B's probably high. I would give it a C. I'd be like, to me, it's an eh. Can I just get an EH? Eh. It's like eh. It's an eh.
That's lower than
All right.
F.
Let's go ahead and one last one. Bleacher Report had the Heat taking Carlton Carrington out of Pitt. We don't have a video for that, but it was an interesting pick to me. Carrington, natural bucket getter, does most of his work in the mid-range, is a little allergic to getting to the rim, but if you're the Heat, I guess you'd be banking on the fact that you could develop him. There's definitely ball skills. There's definitely a lot of natural feel and scoring stuff there to work with. It would be the most interesting pick of all the picks that we've gone through.
C plus, maybe B minus.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. All right, we're going to do our War Room simulation. We're going to tell you what it would be like in Miami's War Room when they're on the clock at 15. We'll do that after this on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. And with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, Your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply, and eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube for Miami Heat talk every day, 5 days a week, even through the offseason. You can also follow us on your favorite podcast app. Here's what we're going to do. ESPN has a mock draft simulator. So we're going to run that simulation here on the back end, and we're going to pretend as if we're in charge of the Miami Heat's draft. We're going to go into the war room, and we're going to debate it out. Depending on who's on the board after the simulation at the 15th pick, we're going to make our case for who we think the Heat should take, and we're going to make a pick there. We can also do the whole second round, too. So maybe we'll just do the entire draft. We'll do the first round and the second round. Obviously, we'll start with the first round because that's how time works. So let's just go ahead and do it. Load up the draft. We can also try to make trades, too.
Yeah. Did you see the Miami Heat social media team posting how Andy Ellisberg was the selection of Glenn Rice? They had ordered some Chinese fried rice the day of the draft. You know.
So what's in our war room?
That's a good thing. Not playing against, I guess, after doing our postseason analysis that way. I don't know if you want to take a chance with those wings. Sushi.
Yeah, that's our first sushi. Do we have sushi in the war room? The problem with sushi is you got to leave it out. That's an issue. I don't want that. I don't want it warm. You got to eat it kind of.
Yeah, we're gonna be in this for hours. So I don't know. What's something like with staying power? Pizza just feels kind of like
sandwiches. Should we get some pub subs in here?
Oh, nice. That's the way to go. Pub subs, but you got to go heavy on the sides too. Maybe get sides from a couple different places too.
Let's do the pub subs with the Publix macaroni salad. I always like that one. They got a good potato salad people like. They have a buffalo chicken dip that people like.
Wedge cut potato fries. Yeah. I mean, that's what mix it up. There's some chips too. Right. Are you fries with sub or chips with sub?
What was the first option?
Fries with sub or chips with sub?
Chips. Who eats fries with a sub? That's crazy. Fries with a cheeseburger.
I've done it.
I mean, I'll do fries with a Philly cheesesteak, but that's different than a sub, right?
Okay. All right. I hear you. Okay. Point taken.
All right. Well, while we decided what
these are the kind of decisions that have to decide. This kind of sets the whole theme for the evening here. We've got to get it all right, Yeah. If the menu is wrong, according to Andy, well, hell, everything could go all fakaktic there. You know it's going to mess everything up. We don't want that.
Well, while we were ordering our pub subs, we are now on the clock. We look up and we say, "Oh my God, we only have a minute left to pick." So here's the mock draft according to ESPN. The Hawks take Alex Sarr. The Wizards take Zachary Rizachet. The Rockets took Stephon Castle. The Spurs take Mataz Buzelis. The Pistons took Reed Shepard. The Hornets took Donovan Clingan. The Trailblazers took Rob Dillingham. The Spurs took Dalton Knecht. The Grizzlies took Cody Williams. The Jazz took Tijan Saloon. The Bulls took Ron Holland. High up on my guy, so a little upset that Ron Holland's off the board. The Thunder took Nikola Topic. The Kings took Tristan De Silva. And then the Trailblazers, David, took Devin Carter.
Son of a bitch. I can't believe it.
Joe Cronin's at it again.
Yes, seriously, what is it with that guy? Why do you hate us so much?
So we've got on the board is Jacoby Walter, Jared McCain, Zach Edey, Johnny Furphy, Carlton Carrington, Keyshawn George, Kyle Filipowski, Isaiah Collier, Khalil Ware. Those are some of the top guys on the board. Where do we want to go with this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we talked about the guards a little bit. I don't know that there's a home run from any of those, although I like, as I said yesterday, the upside of a Keyshawn George. We've seen a lot of possibilities of Portland selecting a player like George because obviously their window is wide open. They could use some wing depth as well, and he's got such a high upside. Is it possible that we call Cronin right now and swing a trade for Keyshawn George? I don't know what we'd have to give him on top of that if we select George and they could send us Carter back in the draft. I don't know in a trade. You think they'd be open
with our
to
second round pick?
Is it worth it? Is it worth including a second round pick to get Devin Carter? That's an interesting question there. I'm not sure that it is. As much as we like Carter and we are high on his upside, would we be comfortable selecting somebody else at 15 or trading both picks just to Portland?
I think we need to explore who we could take at 15 or maybe explore a trade back. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Joe Cronin's not going to be all that interested in helping us out. So if we wanted to move back, there's options, maybe the Knicks at 24 and 25. Do we try to trade back for those 2 first-round picks? I don't know. That seems pretty I know that that's 2 bites at the apple instead of 1, but going 10 picks back in the first round that's a different tier of player altogether. So I think we should stay pat and make a pick here at number 15. I like Jacoby Walter a lot. I think he's really competitive. I love the 3-and-D potential. I'm higher on him than I think consensus. I actually think he's got some on-ball feel, and in Miami could develop into a really interesting player. There is we've done this in previous Blue Notebooks other years. We didn't do it this summer in terms of like that all-star versus role player sort of spectrum. There is an outcome for Jacoby Walter where maybe it's a 10-20% outcome, but there's an outcome where he becomes an all-star. Like, he does have the talent, the athleticism.
Doesn't he have the Paul George comp, right? A lot of people making that comparison there, or is that
like Paul George makes some sense. He does. The Contavious Caldwell-Pope is the one that is the most common comp for him, but there's versions where he could be more than just sort of that 3-and-D wing. So I like him, but Edey's also on the board. So I would be between those 2 guys.
I mean, I guess if we weren't privy to where in his workout or anything like that, but assuming we haven't heard a lot of buzz, which kind of plays into
what than I am. We did work him out in our war room. If this was a classic war room and you brought up Khalil Ware, I would say I'm out, right? And so I would have to be outvoted.
All right. So that's not going to happen with a 2-man war room. With a 2-man war room, that doesn't work out that way. We're going to have
you could do the whole pound the table for Khalil Ware if you feel strongly about it.
I do not. Again, without having seen, there's enough reporting about his lack of feel or whether or not he's got that high drive motor and stuff like that, that unless he really showed out in workouts, and that's something that we wouldn't know unless we were actually there, it's kind of hard to make a strong case for it in this scenario. So given where we're at right now, Walter or Edey?
Unless you want like the McCain or the Carlton Carrington or Keyshawn George, or have we narrowed it down to Walter or Edey?
I think so.
All right. How about we do this?
To
then?
Me,
you know what I'm.
My
pick is
Edey. Yes.
I really like Walter. I think he fills a need right away. You could play him with basically any of Miami's core guys right now, but I've made this point before. I could just push this button and I get one of the biggest humans alive on my roster, and I know he's just going to be big, and now we have maybe some potential to move Bam to power forward. We get Zach Edey, who we did work out. Do we believe in that 3-point shot? I think it's a little bit real given his free throw rate and his touch in the paint. I just think he's got natural touch with the ball leaving his hand. I think that 3-point shot's going to come along at some point, and I think sooner rather than later. I like the work ethic. I like everything about him. He aced his pre-draft interviews. The Miami Heat are taking Zach Edey with the 15th pick. I can't believe we're doing this. This is crazy. You and I just totally, really warmed up on this guy throughout the pre-draft process. I do wonder if that's how the Heat and other front offices around the league, by the way, are feeling. There's some reporting that he could be in the mix for 7 at Portland, right? Or that the Bulls could be interested with him with the 11th pick. So he might not be on the board, but he was in this simulation. We're going to do our 2nd-round pick in our mock war room after this here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You love sports. We all do. We wouldn't be on this show if not. I love them so much that I never want them to stop. Obviously the NHL season just ended. Go Cats. But there's a lot of sports still going on there. But you know what? It's just the playoffs are winding down and we get fewer games and the sports just aren't sportsing the way that we want them to. But FanDuel lets you keep the sports going whenever you want. All you have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime you're in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus. That's daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. We'll be right back.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Let us know in the comments section if we got our first round pick wrong. You can also let us know what you think of our second round pick coming up here in a second. Also follow us on your favorite podcast app. During the break, I ran the simulation for the second round. Some of our favorites are off the board. I won't go through the entire, who got taken since the 15th pick, but some of our favorites like the Deron Holmes, Baylor Shireman, Harrison Ingram was taken, Dylan Jones, and Jamal Sheed. All of those guys off the board. So while we're here, we do have Adebayo out of UCLA, who you and I like. We both had him as one of our guys, but we did just take a center in the first round. So maybe that's not the way to go. Juan Nunez, who I know you like, he's on the board. Kevin McCullough, 3-and-D defensive-minded wing out of Kansas on the board, dealing with some injury concerns right now, but definitely there. A.J. Mitchell, the point guard out of UC Santa Barbara. Pell Larson, scoring guard out of Arizona. Cam Spencer, shooter out of UConn. Keyshawn Johnson out of Arizona, who you and I did a Blue Notebook on. Jalen Bridges out of Baylor, and one of those sort of 3-and-D projected type of wings. And those are really the names that are still on the board. Tristan Newton out of UConn also is there. So of that group, let's talk about Bona first. Does the fact that he's the best player available, and there's no question, but we took Edey in the first round. Is it crazy for us to double down on center and take Edey and Bona, or should we go in another direction, look at a different position?
I'm okay with it, but I think we're going to have to either have some clarity and assumption that Thomas Bryant is probably opting out of his contract, which at this point we haven't heard any kind of confirmation yet, or that Orlando Robinson might be in some kind of upcoming trade that we're currently working on the side there, because I don't think we can afford to have that glut either. I don't think it gives us the kind of, we don't want to have that oversaturation at that one position, especially given what could happen with Miami's wing depth. So I'm inclined to look more into the wings. I know we could probably find somebody as free agents. We could probably find somebody as an undrafted free agent as well. But I just don't know if we want to focus all of our draft capital on two centers unless there's a guarantee that we're going to lose some of the players that are currently on the roster.
The fact that Orlando Robinson may or may not be on the roster isn't going to keep me from taking a player that I think is really good, potentially. Kevin Love is going to opt into that $4 million contract. He's an option at the 4 or the 5. I kind of do like the idea of doubling down on center and really reinforcing the fact that we're moving Bam to power forward. And the fact that not only do we have one guy that we're really happy with Edey, but we have another guy too. And he'll give us a very different look, right? Adebayo, not the same guy as Edey. 6'8", 6'9", with a 7'4" wingspan. The wingspan's really nice with him. More of a switch defender. Not going to be an offensive producer in any way, the way that Edey is. If Zach Edey has like Yao Ming, Brooke Lopez type of potential, Adebayo is more like Kevon Looney, right? Poor man's Bam Adebayo. But I like having that at least. I at least like have the versatility there, where now we have some real, like, we just doubled down. We solved our center kind of position for the future. So I wouldn't rule it out. But I do like some of the other players that are at least on the board. Kevin McCullough, A.J. Mitchell. Pell Larson to me is really interesting as a scoring guard. If we think that we're going to move Terry Rozier, Tyler Hero, or Duncan Robinson, if we think we're going to move one of those guys within the next year or two, having a guy waiting in the wings like Pell Larson, who can kind of do everything with the ball in his hands and is a knockdown shooter, makes a lot of sense to me. What do you think about Pell Larson?
We took a look at him during one of our Blue Notebooks. Good shooter. Everybody likes his athleticism. He's a little bit bigger too at 6'5", so you can see him probably playing a little bit of the forward spot too. I've seen him mocked to some drafts with Miami as well, so it's an interesting option.
Do you like him or Cam Spencer more if we were just trying to narrow down the white shooting guys?
I don't think I have a preference, to be honest with you. I don't think either of them have a huge amount of upside, but
That's the
as far
thing.
as like being a functional role player that you can bring in right away and maybe just fine tune to be like a really good contributor at a fairly decent level, I kind of like Pella Larson, to be honest with you. Like I think the comp was we just gave up Max Struess, kind of get a Max Struess back in some senses. You know, he's a good semi-athletic guy, and he can maybe not as springy as Struess, but it's not like Struess is really like just lighting people up and breaking them down on his way to the rim. He's mostly known as a shooter, and that's where his strength was with Miami. If Larson can replicate some of that, working alongside Duncan Robinson and the current guards on the roster, I don't mind the pick either. I think it's a safe pick, but I don't mind it.
I like that he was really productive at Arizona. Scored at all three levels. Defensively, there's more there than I think people would be led to believe, and can do stuff with the ball in his hands. Cam Spencer is the better three-point shooter out of the two. He might be the best three-point shooter in the entire draft. Some people have labeled him that. So if you really want to go full in on we just need more shooting, then I think Cam Spencer would be the option there. Both of them have an edge. I like the way that both of them play. Both of them have an edge. Cam Spencer has been described as every time he steps on the court, he thinks he's the best player on the court. I kind of like guys like that. You know that. I always kind of am biased towards guys like that. But Pell Larson's a real competitor too. I think I like Larson a little bit more just because of the versatility and the size. I just think that holds up better at the NBA level. Keyshawn Johnson, should we talk about him? Because I know you like him.
Yeah, we did. Again, we reviewed a little bit. He can shoot a little bit. He's a little bit of a tweener. It's not a high upside necessarily either, but I think he's got an NBA body. The comparison was Jay Crowder. They've been looking for somebody that kind of could reproduce what Crowder brought to Miami. You know, they brought in PJ Tucker. They've been looking for somebody that kind of fit that mold a little bit. I don't know if Johnson's going to be that high end of a contributor right away, but if you're starting to develop somebody, I like that fit as well. So he's got a little bit of everything to his game too. And I think that it would work well in Miami. And I trust that Miami, if he embraces Sioux Falls and the work culture and everything else like that, and continues to improve and show that kind of tenacity defensively, I like his fit in Miami. So I wouldn't be unhappy with that selection either.
I'm exploring options to trade back here, and it's not easy. So I think
it's not worth it.
It's really not. So who are you leaning towards then? Is there another, or we didn't really, the Kevin McCullough option is there too? Like, do we go in that direction?
I think he might go undrafted, and I think he goes undrafted, and I think Miami winds up bringing somebody like that, a 4-year player, smart, high IQ, team leader, can space the floor. So you're kind of addressing some of your wing depth that way. Like I would reach out to his agent right away and say, listen, we kind of, we promised or we discussed bringing this guy in, whoever we wind up selecting. But if McCullough is available at the end of the draft, we want him on our team, and we want to make that kind of commitment early on. So I wouldn't be unhappy with that. Let's take Larson. Why not?
Larson. Pell Larson? Over
Larson.
Adam Bona?
Yes.
All right. I'm okay with it.
I cannot see us committing 2 draft picks to the center position. Like you're forcing Thomas Bryant's hand a little bit, and you're probably saying, Thomas, we really don't believe in you, and this clearly shows that. At the same time, maybe that clears some of the glut.
Yeah, if we believe in Edey enough to take him at 15, then I think you and I probably are envisioning a team where when Edey's not playing center, Bam is. So is there really any minutes for Bona there? And whatever loose kind of minutes are hanging around, we probably want those going to Kevin Love. We still like Orlando Robinson some. There's some other options within our development pipeline. I think it's a little bit painful to not take Bona when he was there, considering that he was both on our guys' big board there. But I like Pell Larson plenty. I like Cam Spencer plenty. I'm very happy with both of those options. I like going with Pell Larson here. So the war room is over. The draft is over. The Miami Heat exit the draft with Zach Edey and Pell Larson. What do we think? What do we think about our draft there?
A little surprising, not expecting that to go down that way, The locker room got a lot brighter all of a sudden there, but you know what? That's okay. You bring in some talent. It'll be interesting. Bringing in some guys that add some depth. and some spark. And I'm buying into the Edie thing, to be honest with you. Like, the guy, he has to have a chip on his shoulder that everybody's going to like. How do you dominate college basketball for 2 years so completely as he has? And then everybody's telling you, you know what? You might not even get picked in the top 20. Like, that's got to eat at you as a competitor, a guy who's taken the time to put in the work and to improve his game and to dominate, quite frankly. And you can't just dominate by being 7'4", because there are 7-footers in college basketball that aren't half as good as Edie is. So I think he's going to be a really strong impact player for a team that gives him an opportunity. I don't know if it's Miami. I don't know where it'll be, but if he gets an opportunity, I think he'll be an impactful player. As far as Larson is concerned, again, yeah, you're reproducing a player that you lost, and I think you're bringing some spark there. A guy who can shoot, a guy who can drive, who can play tough defense. I think he'll be a nice addition to the roster. I think he's a competitor, and I think he's going to embrace Heat culture really at a high level.
Would have been nice if one of the wings we liked fell. The Dylan Joneses, the Harrison Ingrams, those guys were not on the board, unfortunately. Yes. And so we went with the best player that we thought could fill a need there. Pelle Larsson certainly does that, does provide a little bit of size. And like I said, I think there's definitely value in the second round. You're not looking for guys who are going to play right away. You're looking for... Right. We're just trying to rebuild the development pipeline a little bit, replenish that pipeline a little bit more. And Pelle Larsson is a guy that we don't really have in our pipeline. Even a guy like Cole Swider, is great as a knockdown shooter as he is, doesn't project to be like on the ball the way that Pelle Larsson can be on the ball. So there's room for everybody here. And the whole point of the pipeline is you want to replenish it. You want to cram it full of potential guys who can turn into something later on. So I think Pelle Larsson has a place here. I think he'd be more than happy going up to Sioux Falls for a year and working on his game there, and then coming back maybe 12 months from now when the depth chart doesn't look quite the way it does potentially, and at least we have that option there. So going into free agency after this, I still think that our biggest team need is, are we able to bring back Caleb Martin or Haywood Highsmith? Those guys walk. What other wings are we able to go get? We'll look at the undrafted pile of guys here. I like the idea of going after like a Tristan Newton on a two-way, bringing him in. I think there's a lot of point guards that the Heat are looking at in the second round, and guys who could potentially go undrafted that they could bring into their pipeline. I would not be shocked if they went in that direction in real life here.
Boogie Ellis, right? The guy they worked at?
Boogie Ellis, Tristan Newton, the kid Zion out of Florida. There's a bunch of guys that they're working out in this range, so that might be something that they're looking at doing here, and those are the needs. So that was fun. I wonder how it'll go in real life.
We could have done that like we could have done that like 8 more times leading up to the draft, and we would have had.
I probably do this a dozen times a day. It's so fun. I enjoy this.
Just
so
click
much.
And let it run. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like, and now what do I do? All right, that'll do it for us today. Catch us Wednesday night at the event, the Miami Heat official draft watch party at Vivo at Dolphin Mall. It starts at 7:00. We will be there around 7:00. The draft kicks off at 8:00. The Heat will be picking with the number 15 pick. We will be there to break it down live. Come out, get to know us. We'll get to know you. Analysis, Heat talk, beverages, the whole 9 yards. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app.